important thing to remember at this point is the results are unofficial. They will be until early next week, when every county in the state and in this congressional district in particular are going to have to do an official canvass or certification of their votes. The numbers could still change over the next few days. Any ballot that was postmarked by Monday that is received by the canvass will still count. So those ballots can still change the numbers in this race. The other thing that can change as well is what we call provisional ballots. So if someone went to the polls yesterday and did not have proper voter ID, or there was some other question in their ballot, they are given what's known as a provisional ballot. They're allowed to fill out the ballot, but then that ballot is put in a separate bin, and then it is reviewed by the auditor after the fact to determine whether or not that person is eligible. Sometimes that person has to go to the auditor to then bring in their ID or proof of residency or some other requirements. So those could still factor into this as well. Once there is the canvass, once the canvass occurs, or sort of the certification of it, within 3 days, whoever wants a recount needs to notify each county auditor that they want a recount. In Iowa, there is no automatic provision for a recount. It has to be at the request of someone that is on the ballot. I imagine with these numbers, I mean, last I saw, as I think of talking to you, there is 282 ballots between the two. That's difficult, but it is not insurmountable. So I think you're going to see a lot of talk about this over the next several days and into late next week.
Is there a threshold that those two campaigns are looking at that would say we're not going to ask for a recount, or all right, this is enough wiggle room that it's time for a recount?
With these numbers, I mean, when I was running some quick numbers last night, I mean, we're talking about even less than 0.1%, and we're talking about 0.7% difference between these two campaigns. You know, I used to manage political campaigns for a living. If I was working on Rita Hart's race right now, I would be getting ready for a recount. And same thing for Senator Meeks. There's going to be a recount. I don't see how that's avoided at this point. With this margin, a recount could change this unofficial result potentially. I mean, 282 votes, that is still quite a bit, but with late writing absentees, with provisional ballots, and then once you get in the recount, you know, there could be a few votes out there that either weren't counted because the machines picked them up as what we call an overvote, meaning as it went into the machine, it counted it as no vote because there were two different options marked on the ballot. Those will be reviewed as well, potentially. And there are very specific ways to interpret that under Iowa's administrative rules that auditors will have to follow. I mean, then there will be observers of this as well. I mean, each side is entitled to have somebody there. And they also, you know, Mary Miller Meeks' campaign will have a representative there. Senator Hart will have someone there. Those two campaigns in each of these counties should have to appoint sort of a third person to be sort of a neutral party. If they can't do that, then the chief justice of the judicial district that county resides in picks that third person. I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity over the next coming days, but you can't ask for a recount until the canvass has occurred. The canvass will not occur until Monday or Tuesday in these counties. Once that happens, in each of these counties, there will have to be a formal request for a recount. I assume that every single county will have a request in. If one side doesn't do it, I'm sure the other side will ask for one in the counties that they don't ask for, particularly where they think that there might be votes that might help their campaign. But we have seen recounts in Iowa, but nothing on this scale. Normally we'll see a recount in a state legislative race, or you might have one small county, or maybe a couple small counties, and you're talking about 15,000 votes overall across all candidates. You're talking, I don't know, somewhere close to 400,000 ballots, I believe, that were cast in this race. It's going to be a process.
When you talk about recount, are they just literally counting again? Are they redoing the work that they just did on election night and before election day?
Yes. And they might be doing some more in terms of literally looking at some of these ballots, because you might have some, a person goes into the voting booth, they might make a little line in an oval and realize that's the wrong one, and then they make a bigger oval in what they meant to vote for. Well, under the Iowa administrative rules, while the machine might have picked that up as no vote, because you can't obviously vote for two people in a contested race, depending on how the voter did that and what it looks like, it might be able to be determined who that voter was intended to actually vote for. And there are very specific guidance from the state on how these should be interpreted. A quick little aside, I'll email you the administrative portion that deals with this, because they actually have graphics showing how you should
Really?
This. Yeah.
Would they also, do they bring the voter in and say, hey, Grant,
no, because
see that
you don't know who the voter is. You don't know who the voter is. We don't know who the voters are now.
Your name isn't attached to that vote?
Nope. It's secret.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Once they pulled, so like an absentee ballot, once they pull it out of that affidavit, there's no way of tracking it. It's secret, it's private, it's confidential at that point. Once you go in person and vote and you put it in the machine, it does not attach that to you at all. And in fact, if there is something, so let's say, you live in Des Moines, we'll use ridiculous examples. So let's say you meant to vote for Kanye, but at first you started to fill out Rocky De La Fuente, but you did a little line there and you're like, oh, I meant to vote for Kanye, and you fill out a full oval for Kanye and you circle the Kanye and you write, this is what I really meant to do. You could even write that. Your vote would count for Kanye. If you were to write your initials or your name next to it, then your vote doesn't count, because that's not allowed, because then your ballot's no longer secret. In Iowa, we do try to look at people's subjective intent the best we can, but it's a process, and 282 votes doesn't sound like much. It's a bit in a recount. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the first thing that's going to have to occur is these late arriving absentee ballots. We'll probably get a better sense of that by the end of the week, and then these provisional ballots are going to have to be dealt with, and then we'll see what sort of where this is at, and then the real question becomes, what type of votes are there that need to be examined? It's interesting, because nothing like this, in my memory, on this scale, I've been involved in campaigns for 20 years, and there's never been the potential for a recount in the state of Iowa for such a important and large political jurisdiction. I mean, like I was stating earlier, you have these issues come up in state legislative campaigns. From last I looked, I don't think there's going to be any recount issues with state legislative campaigns this year, but normally there's one, maybe two that have to be dealt with. But when you're talking, close to 400,000 ballots that have been cast, that, a lot of this is going to be just running them through a machine again. But then there's going to be a bunch of votes that will probably be physically examined to try to determine the voter's intent. And that's going to happen across all the counties that make up that congressional district.